Good Sunday morning. It is the Sunday morning services. Not exactly a sunrise service because the sun's been up for a little bit, but it is Sunday morning. And I don't personally choose a certain day to give my sermons, if you will. Some people call them rants, some people call them sermons. My presentation, how's that? Because sometimes I present it in a different way than I do other times. And I'm presenting topics that should be of interest to anybody that claims are a belief. They have a belief system, they put faith into something, they're putting hope into something. And that's what this is about this morning. What foundation? And I've talked about foundations before. Even the Bible talks about foundation. Even Jesus in the Bible is quoted as having talked about foundation. You remember the one story where he talks about building a house on, and he presented 3 different foundations, and which one was going to stand? Or what foundation are you building your faith and hope on? So from a Christian viewpoint, as people flock off to the churches this day, maybe this morning, maybe you're already there, maybe you're going later in the day, but a lot of times Sunday has been set aside as a day that we really focus in on our faith, at least for an hour or so, and then we get on back to our normal lives, right? It's not like it's a great transformation of who we are or anything like that, at least commonly speaking. But let's examine the traditional mainstream view of the biblical God. That's what I was brought up in, that's what I was educated in, and that's what I believed in. And that's what the church is based on. The church is based on an interpretation of the God talked about in the book that's commonly called the Bible. And the most widespread version of that book is called the Protestant Bible, which has 66 books. I'm not going to get in at this point of the history of the book itself and how different it is from the Orthodox Bible and the Catholic Bible and that sort of thing, but just the overall basic storyline that's told in this book, the Bible, that describes to us, the reader, the believer, the attributes of this God, the history of this God. And there is a big difference, and that's what we were going to focus on this morning, the difference between what it describes as the attributes of this God versus the recorded history of what this God has actually done over a period of several thousand years, as recorded in this Bible. Does the foundation, does the history of the actions, not the words, not what attributed, not that sort of thing, but the recorded actions of this God, is it something that you would normally say, I'm going to put faith in this guy or in this God because he did thus and so? Now we're going to get beyond because he's the life giver. Well, we're making an assumption that the God of the Bible is the life giver based upon the fact that the Bible states so. Just because the Bible states so does not make it so. But let's say that this God of the Bible is indeed the quote-unquote life giver, the quote-unquote creator of all things. And we're just going to go from that point on. So the storyline, as we all know pretty much, is that God created the heavens and the earth, the angels, and then he created animals, and he created man, and then he created from man, he created man. Now, the factual basis, most of us in Christianity, at some point, if you're my age anyway, had been taught that men have one more rib than women. So that makes the Bible true because the Bible says that God took the rib from man and formed woman out of the rib. Then we find out, not true. Women have the same number of ribs that man does. So that would go in a column of, misleading statement in the Bible, right? Because we've got to We've got to find out, do we want to put credence, number one, in the words of this book? And number two, do we want to put faith in the God whose story is said to be told in that book? Now, if you notice, God created the heavens, created the earth, he created the angels. And then he created man and told man to subdue the earth, populate the earth, and so forth. And during this period of time, this original human couple, Adam and Eve, as the names is given to them in the book, are in the garden. They're running around naked, no clothes necessary. They were nudists, they were naturalists. Something that happened, I guess, hasn't happened since then. And they're wandering around, and God also gave them a command. And I don't know why, and I think people need to question this. Why would you need to test your people? You test your child, you purposely test your child, and you're not all-knowing like your God is, right? God's supposed to be all-knowing. Is God all-knowing? So let's start out at the very beginning, and let's find out if God is all-knowing. Let's see if that's an accurate statement. Because he puts a tree, one tree, called the tree of the knowledge of good and bad, good and evil. And he told Adam and Eve that of all the things in this garden you can eat, you can partake of, except for the fruit of this one tree. In the center of the garden, the knowledge of good and evil. And so that's fine. So Eve was wandering around the garden one day, and she walks by, I guess, a tree, and there is a snake hanging from a limb in the tree, and the snake says, hey, Eve, talk to me. Yeah, I know I'm a snake, but talk to me. Okay. Did snakes somewhere in history lose their ability to talk? I've done a lot of hiking. I've run upon snakes. I've never found, and I've been to reptile farms. I've never been across and never heard of anybody bumping into a snake that actually talked to them. But this is the story, and we're checking two things: the validity of the stories in this book. And when I say validity, are these stories literal happenings, or are they stories to convey a message? Let's put it that way. So this snake hanging from a limb of a tree, you've seen the artist depictions of this, and it's in there, hey, Eve, let's come over here and eat this fruit. Eve says, well, no, God said from the day that I eat this fruit, I will certainly die. And the snake says, it's not true. You're not going to die. You'll gain knowledge of good and evil. You're not going to die if you're partaking of knowledge. That's the basis of this whole thing, right? Taking of knowledge. So anyway, at some point, the snake convinces Eve to eat that fruit. And she goes and says, Adam, guess what? I talked to the snake. And the snake convinced me that we should eat this fruit. We can be like God and know good and bad. Adam says, really? He didn't even ask. Nowhere in the Bible did he say, let me talk to that snake. Nowhere in the Bible do I see Adam saying, a talking snake? Eve, what have you been smoking? None of that. He just, okay, give me a bite. And of course, from there, it all goes downhill, except there's still a lesson to be learned from that first story about humanity right there. The first story that God's words were, if you eat that fruit of that tree, and you will certainly die. The snake, who is, according to mainstream Christianity, is identified as basically Satan. Most are stating that Satan is using the snake kind of like a ventriloquist would use a gummy. And this snake or Satan, either one, however you want to define it, either way, it's not God, it's a adversary of God, you could say, is saying, you're not going to die. You're not going to die. Eat the fruit. You're not going to die. That's crazy. That's BS. Eat the fruit. It's good fruit. One of the best fruits. And not only that, it is the fruit of knowledge. Good bad. It is the fruit of knowledge. You really eat the fruit. And so here's the point that's never talked about that we learn from this story is the adversary of this creator God is sending a different message than God said. God said, you ain't gonna die. The serpent, the snake, Satan, this adversary says, you're not gonna die. So where are we today? Thousands of years after this story supposedly happened, where are we today? We're still at that point of, we're not gonna die. That's what you hear all the time. You're not going to die. You go to a funeral and the body's laying there, and the preacher who's giving the eulogy over this deceased body is saying, you're not really dead. It's not. That's just a container. The person's still there. They're out there. They're in heaven in a better place. They're up there with grandma. What's up with this? You ever think about this? You're saying, very interestingly, we're saying, wow, Christianity is still teaching what the serpent said. According to the storyline, you didn't need education, you didn't need this knowledge, you just needed to have faith. The church is teaching and that you're not going to die. You still exist. You never really die. The physical death, yes. I mean, the body, you shed the body and you go to heaven, and guess what? You become basically an angel, right? People, especially when they lose a little child, a little infant to death, they'll talk about he's now an angel in heaven. And that presents another problem. So far we've got two different accounts of the creation account. We're just starting at the beginning of the way this book is laid out. And I'm not even suggesting that the book as you read it today is in the order that the writings were written, okay? But that's the way we read it because that's the way it's presented to us in this book. No matter what chapter was written first and so forth. But there's two different creation accounts. Angels, the earth, and so forth. All this was created. It's kind of like man was the last thing that was created. We have to deal with a snake. The snake is telling Adam and Eve, you've got an all-knowing God that's putting his creation to the test because it's like, I wonder, it's like a parent, an imperfect parent not trusting their child. So it's like, not only am I telling my child, it's not like God said, if you eat this over here, that's poisonous. This particular plant is not meant for your eating, that's poisonous. So it's not like God said that. No, God actually planted a tree with the intent and purpose of being able to say, eat what you want to, but stay away from that one tree. It's a test. And it's not the first time in the Bible that there's this test of one's faith and loyalty to God. We went through that with Job, right? So we've got this test, and it's like, I personally have to question why would an all-knowing God need to put a test on his subjects? The interesting factor is that that story is never told about the angels were never put to a test. Nowhere in the Bible does it give a story of the angels being told, you can go anywhere in the universe, but don't go to the moon. You go to the moon, I'm going to annihilate you. That test is never there. Even Satan, this adversary who supposedly talked through this snake to convince Eve that you're not going to die, eat the fruit, you need the knowledge, you'll become like God. You're not going to die. So already just in the first few chapters of this book, we're getting this image of, are you serious? Are you taking this stuff for real? We're gonna trudge on through. We barely made it through the first 2 or 3 chapters of this book. This is what's laid out initially in this book. And you go on with this. Okay, so the creation account takes place. We find out, first of all, that God removed a rib from Adam to create this woman, but they both have women have the same number of ribs as we do. The picture is painted immediately that women are in that subjective mode to the male. The male is the dominant. He was created first. And it's from me, the man, that you came about. So you're going to be subjected to me. You get this, right? And that's a dominant theme all the way through the Bible, too. This male dominance, this patriarchal system, very strong throughout this. It wasn't like God has ever presented as a female. It's not like God sent a female angel to save us. It's all about that male, the firstborn male child, because it's all about that male inheritance, that firstborn child. That's the predominant theme. Jesus was the firstborn. You see, so as you're looking at the reality of our lives and the reality of what the church is teaching, if you're claiming, this big if you're claiming this God, then this story in this book, the Bible, as the basis and the foundation for your belief, as you're flocking to these churches to be preached to by these men mostly. There's some women, and sometimes they let a woman. Okay, now it's the 21st century. Things are a little bit different, right? But that didn't take place in the Bible. You don't have an instance in the Bible where a female is getting up in front of a group of people saying, whatever, God didn't send a female up to Mount Sinai to get the 613 commandments we call the Mosaic Law. In fact, let's just move forward just a little bit. We're going to skip a lot. We're going to skip about the murder over a sacrifice. My sacrifice is better than yours. They get into a disagreement over who's got the best sacrifice. And Cain kills Abel. Let's go move on past that story. Let's get to Sodom and Gomorrah. I want you to pay close attention to this. God sees Sodom and Gomorrah, wicked people. They're just, they're not worth it. I want to wipe them. God gets pissed. I want to wipe these two cities off the planet. It doesn't talk about all the other cities on the planet, what they're doing, but it's focused on Sodom and Gomorrah. For some reason, these people, I guess, have shown themselves to be more wicked and disobedient than any other peoples and any other cities across the planet. But out of all those people, men, women, babies, children, God identifies this family, this one little family of Lot, his wife, and his two daughters. They're the only ones worthy saving. Okay? So out of all these other people, they're so corrupt in the heart, I guess. They're so deviant and debauched that only Lot and his wife and his two daughters are worthy of saying, yeah, we'll send angels. Guess what? I'm going to burn these cities down, but I'm going to save y'all. Get out of there. He sent the two angels telling them, get out of town. I'm about to burn. The other people weren't warned. Why didn't he send to the town square an angel and say, you can show your faith to me? I'm about to annihilate this place. I'm going to burn these cities down. I've given you last opportunity to leave. No, he didn't give him an opportunity. So Lot packs up his wife and two daughters and they head up out of town because the angels have warned him. Now, the big focus that everybody, the church gives to this whole story is the fact that these two angels are so beautiful that the townsmen come up and say, hey, we want to have intercourse. We want to have sex with those angels. Okay, do you remember that? And from that comes all this, they were destroyed because of homosexuality, which is not what the Bible says. Not at all what the Bible says. Twice in the Bible, it lays out the exact reasons that God decided they didn't take care of the elderly. They didn't feed the hungry. They didn't do, that's the kind of things it says. So here we are. We're dealing with this situation. Lot and his wife and his 2 daughters are fleeing town by God's command. I don't know what they were able to bring with them. 4 people. No, didn't say they had a camel or a horse or any way to carry much of anything. And they get on the side of the mountain. I guess the fire and brimstone's coming down out of heaven. And Lot's wife turns around, like, ooh, look at that. God got pissed at her looking back and turned into a pillar of salt. A pillar of salt. Can you imagine? Mom's there, and then Mom turned into a statue of salt. How do I know she's salt? Tastes like salt. Maybe we should get a cup of Mom so we can season our food and preserve our meat. Anyway, so God gets upset about that. He's annihilated this whole town for debauched behavior, and then he annihilates, kills Lot's wife for turning back to see her house. Our invention, you don't like that. We're gone, no, I got time for that. Lot and his 2 daughters, they head on up the hill, they climb to the mountains, they find a cave. You gotta find somebody to sleep, and cave dwelling was a big thing back in those days. So 2 or 3 nights later, they're laid up in the cave. Somewhere along the line, somebody had the good sense when they were leaving the house. Somebody had the good sense to say, of all the things that we're going to take with us, let's grab the wine. So the 2 daughters are sitting there, and it's like, hey, going that male thing again. Got 2 daughters, but they're not good enough. We got to have a male child. The 2 daughters recognize this. They say, Dad don't have a male child. Mom's a pillar of salt. She ain't gonna have no more kids. It's just us and Dad. Here, pop those corks on that wine. Let's get Dad drunk. Let's fuck him and have his babies. And that's what they did, according to the Bible. This is the storyline. According to the Bible, they get Dad drunk, they screw him, they get pregnant by Dad. Today's world, we call that incest. And in today's world, we actually lock people up with that crap because we have a different morality than God does, I guess, right? To us, that's, no, I don't want to do that. To God, it was like, no big deal. I'd rather see y'all get your dad drunk and screw him and have a child than I would for your mother to turn back to your house, go up in smithereens. That's the big thing I don't like. Don't be looking back at your house going up. You're gone. Put her assault. Getting Dad drunk, screwing him, having the babies. Yeah, gotta have that male child. At whatever cost, that male child is what you gotta have. The girls ain't good enough. Get this whole picture here. This is the God you're dealing with. This is the God. This is the book. This is the God you're dealing with. The male child. So much so, remember the story of Abraham and his wife? Sarah's she's not popping out with boys. Again, we got that male thing. She's not popping these boys out of the chute. So she turns to Abraham. She's got this slave girl. They were slave owners back then. She's got this slave girl. Well, side note, you'll never find in the Bible anywhere where it condemns slavery. Never. Even in the New Testament, it tells slaves how to react to their masters and masters how to deal with their slaves. In fact, never once does it say slavery is wrong. But here's Abraham and Sarah. They're getting up in years. And there's no male child. Male child. M-A-L-E. Masculine. You know, a human being with a penis. Not there. Women ain't good enough. Sarah goes up to Abraham and says, look, Abe, we got a problem, you know. We're getting up in years. There ain't no male child. We got to do something. So here, take my slave girl, screw her, get her pregnant. That's what she did. God didn't step in and say, oh, that's wrong. That's cheating. That's swinging. It's like having an orgy, sweating. I never said that. It was cool, man. I had that male child. Going through Egypt, God slaughtered all the firstborn male children. The firstborn male child never was the firstborn female child. We sweep all the way through this book, and then Paul writes, way up in the New Testament, Paul writes, women be in subjection to your man. Women are not even supposed to speak up in church. It's there, black and white. Of course, that's morphed into we're not gonna we're gonna set that one aside. See, because humans are outgrowing their God. You think about this, humans, the whole history of this thing, from the very beginning all the way to the end, humans keep outgrowing the morality of their own God. All of a sudden, it's like, well, marriage should be a partnership. That scriptures don't fit what now we're in the 21st century. So we keep outgrowing. But the more fascinating part, and I can go on and on with all these stories you put in line here. Of course, we had the original couple. You are the failure you are, Amazing Grace will save a wretch like me, right? We're all wretches, sinful wretches, hear it all the time. But I was washed clean by the blood of the Lamb, by the blood of the Lamb. And these are the same people that would talk about Satanist and human sacrifice, animal sacrifice. First of all, the Old Testament is full of human sacrifice. Bloodletting, the big thing, that blood sacrifice, slaughter that animal. Then we get into human sacrifice. Yes, this goes on and on. This is the story. This is the story, and this is the interpretation. This is what the God you're getting when you flock to these churches. This is the God that you're getting when you flock to these churches. Why you see crosses? Because hopefully the bloodless God. Why you do communion? You're ritualistically and symbolically drinking the blood and eating the flesh of this 33-year-old, 2,000-year-old story of this man that was executed that we're told is the Son of God, because this all-knowing, benevolent God is the only way he can figure, what am I going to do? I got to engineer a way to get my creation out of a situation that I kind of sort of had my hands in to begin with. The best thing I can do is get my best angel over here, my first creation, the firstborn, Jesus, male child, again, male. We'll send him to earth. He's going to take on a male body with a swinging dick. And then I'm going to sacrifice him. I'm going to let the government come in and nail him to a stake, stab a spear in his side. His blood is going to be let. He's going to die. And based on that, you got hope of living forever. Which ties us in back with the beginning story again, doesn't it? When Adam and Eve were told about that tree of the knowledge of good and evil, they were told, you eat of it, you're going to die. Satan, the adversary, through the snake comes along and says, you're not going to die. And what's the story we have today? You're not dying, you're going to heaven. The Bible teaches the resurrection. It doesn't say you're going to go to heaven. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that you die and you drift off to heaven. Not there. Do you know that? It's not there. It says you're dead. The Bible even describes death as sleep. Even Jesus said, asleep. I'm going to go wake him up. I'm going to resurrect him. So he resurrects. He's dead. During that time, there's no memory, there's no love, there's no hate. That's the word used in the Bible about death. But all you people have been taught by the church that you never really die. You're up there with grandma. You're up there with your late husband. You're up there even with your dogs and cats. Nothing biblical about this. This is all woo-woo BS. It's not Bible-based at all. The whole thing that you've left your body, your soul is departed. Not biblical at all. The Bible says you are a living soul, and the soul that sinneth it itself shall die. So then we changed the interpretation of die. Huh? Well, it's talking about a physical death. But then I want you to tie one more thing into this story. I'm not, number one, this is not designed to diminish your faith or belief in a God, in a creator. This is to have you examine the belief that the churches are teaching you about a particular God. Okay? So this is not to say that there's not a hope of eternity. This is not to say that there's not a God, a creator of all things. That's not the purpose of this. This is the purpose to say, you sure you got the right one? Are you sure you're being taught right by flocking to this church? Because of resurrection. You're dead until you're resurrected. Any resurrection that took place in the Bible, it wasn't like the person resurrected said, oh, let me tell you about my experience. I saw a light. I saw grandma. It's not there. Even the Bible says there's no marriage in heaven. According to the interpretation of the Bible, angels ain't that great. Look, they ain't all got wings and halos and all that bullshit. So you're getting this stuff, fairy tales and stories written outside the Bible by men that just were writing stuff. Been intertwined because we want that comfort. See, that's what Satan was giving Adam and Eve. Not truth, but comfort. The comfort is, you're not going to die. You just fruit. You're not going to die. Go to college, become a lawyer, become a doctor. You're not going to die. You are going to die. Grandma's not in heaven. Hell is not a fiery pit of burning forever bullshit. That came from Dante. That didn't come from a Bible teaching. That came from the Gehenna outside the walls of Jerusalem. And Christians, Gentiles, have taken all these stories literally and got it all screwed up and convinced people of things that the book doesn't even teach at any level. Contrary, totally, to the teachings of this book. So examine your beliefs. It's okay to examine your beliefs. Even in Christianity, you've got over 30,000 different denominations. I'm Methodist, I'm Baptist, I'm Church of Christ, I'm Catholic, I'm Mormon, I'm Jehovah's Witness. What are we doing, rolling the dice? Is that what we are? I think instead of just rolling the dice, instead of just saying, I like the way they teach those Methodists. I like the music over there at that church. I like Pastor Bob over there. He's smooth. He's calm. Calming to the spirit. Mm-hmm. Now, do you ever hear him say, I want to go over here because they're talking real truth? You want to hear real truth. You want to give your God lip service. You don't even want to know the story. How many times have you read Matthew 5, 6, and 7? No, you have been bought into this Fox News right-wing bullshit that comes out of church. The 10 Commandments, 10 Commandments. Roy Moore, gotta have them 10 Commandments. Are you a fucking Jew? Or are you a Christian? Did you go to a fucking Jewish temple, okay? Because Jesus kind of turned things around. Matthew 5, 6, and 7. Read Matthew 5, 6, and 7. Never read that? Read it. Turn everything off. Matthew 5, 6, and 7. Start thinking. You're betting your eternity on all this stuff. You're betting your eternity on it. And you don't take time to question it. You dig into your hair shampoo. You want to know the ingredients of this, the quality of your meat. You want to know all these things that deal on a temporal level. But you're not going to dig into your belief. You're not going to question, what am I believing? Let me sit back and think about this stuff. What's the answer from the church? Oh, no, it's the mystery of God. That's Satan getting through to you. No, Satan already got through to the church, convincing you that you never die. You just drift off. Spite of the Bible saying the soul that sins in itself should die. In spite of the Bible that describes death impeccably and compares it to sleep. In spite of the fact that the Bible teaches a resurrection. In spite of the fact that the majority books of the Bible, the majority stories in the Bible does not speak of an afterlife, period. Not even a resurrection. That didn't happen until later on in the New Testament. The Jews, the Israelites, never expressed that hope at all. But now you're buying the snake story. You never really die. You never really die. Check your story. Check your beliefs. If you think for one moment that your eternity depends on these things, get it straight. For your own benefit, get it straight. So you folks, peace.